Hi, Gohar here again. I'm a speech therapist with Great Speech. So oftentimes when we read or we listen to somebody tell a story, we have a little movie running in our head. We picture what the person's telling us or what we're reading in the book, what the author's telling us. Good readers do this automatically. Sometimes we're too distracted, sometimes we're tired, and sometimes we just don't know how to picture. So the way I teach visualizing to my students is by giving them a series of questions to focus on when they read. So say you read a sentence, okay, and you feel like you didn't really process what you read. Good questions to ask yourself. They're not even questions, they're keywords, or these are some of the easier ones and more obvious ones to focus on. So for example, if you read a sentence and you were wondering about the who in that sentence, right? Your character could be a male or a female, so it could be the gender of this person. They could be young, school age, newborn. They could be a 20-year-old college student. So when you are reading about this who, you're wondering, well, based on what I'm reading, how old do I think this person is? What do I think their gender is? Another way to think about the person is, how do they look? What do I picture them wearing? Along those same lines, where am I picturing this person? Are they sitting on the edge of their bed in their room? Are they in the middle of a field? So when you ask these questions, over time it becomes second nature to picture. So for parents, when they're reading with their children or to their children, it would be a good idea to pause now and then when you see a sentence that is full of descriptions or actually lacking description. You can say, I wonder what the character looked like, or I wonder what kind of faces the character was making. I wonder how the character was moving. These are all great questions to ask to get the children to think and visualize what they're listening to or what they're reading about. Are you ready to try one together, Oakley?
hmm
All right, here we go. Let's read this first sentence. You can just read it to yourself.
Okay.
And then tell me what you picture.
Um, I imagine two men, the Duke and
D'Artagnan.
thank you. I imagine them both interacting with each other. I specifically imagine them across from each other. My mind had automatically gone to taking place in a carriage, um, being pulled along like they are mid-ride and they are talking. And it says he is trying to draw from him not all that happened, but what he knew. So I would imagine that the Duke was interrogating him, trying to figure out something.
Okay, that was really great information about what you pictured happening and where you pictured it happening. You said that you pictured the carriage being pulled along. What was pulling the carriage?
Two black stallions.
Okay, so Oakley just now pictured a carriage being drawn by horses because she has the background information to, just from this one sentence, understand that this is not something that's happening in the present time. This is something happened in the olden times when people were riding carriages pulled by horses. She might have assumed that from the data up top,
hmm
or she might have assumed that from the word draw. I'm sorry, from the word Duke, or even if she knows the story of D'Artagnan, which very few would know, unless they had specifically read the story at school. There's lots of pieces that she could have previously that would help her make that assumption. So a child who does not really have any of this background information, what a Duke is, if we do have Dukes nowadays or not, what 1844 means, what it looks like, they're not going to be able to make this level of inferencing. They're not going to be able to picture this deeply. So it's your job to help them and say, well, 1844 was a long time ago and there were no cars then. What do you picture they would be riding in or sitting in?
hmm
Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay, so my other question for you, Oakley, was I wanted to give you a keyword to help you picture a little bit more.
Okay.
What did you picture the Duke and D'Artagnan looking like in terms of gender, age, physique?
I imagine them both male.
Mhm.
I imagine them being rather old. I would say definitely adults, maybe a little bit on the young side. I imagine the Duke being older, significantly older. I imagined them both dressed in darker clothing. I often associate England with dark weather, and usually in dark weather we dress in dark clothing, so I was kind of making connections there and there.
Okay. And you said
Um,
England because we already read this passage before previously, so you're using a little bit of prior information to create that picture in your mind.
yes.
Wonderful. I'm going to actually give you a little bit more further along in the text to help you narrow maybe the ages of these people down a little more,
Okay.
specifically with regards to D'Artagnan. Okay, so at the end of this paragraph, the Duke thinks about D'Artagnan, okay, and he thinks highly of him. He thinks he's courageous and he's brave and he's devoted,
Mhm.
despite. Go ahead and read
Okay.
that part.
Not more than 20 years.
Okay, so if you had that information, do you still have the same picture in your mind that the Duke and D'Artagnan are kind of older gentlemen, with the Duke being a little bit older than D'Artagnan?
Yes, I do, but I also imagine D'Artagnan being significantly younger than I had first imagined.
There you go. Okay, so now you have a different picture of him because now you have different information from the text.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So picturing is really reading or listening to a story and recreating it in your head as a movie. It shouldn't be hard work. You shouldn't have to picture every single sentence. Some things will create pictures, some things won't, but it's a great idea when you're reading with your children or with your students to just pause, pick a sentence that you feel is lacking description or has a lot of great description, and tell your student or your child, hey, what did you picture happening there?
Mhm.
All right. Thanks for your help, Oakley.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you for watching. Hope you find this video helpful and stay tuned for more. For more information, please feel free to visit greatspeech.com.